another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, where today we're talking about this. Now, this will likely be posted after I talked about its cousin, but this is the for real deal. Now, what is this plant, you ask? Artemisia absinthium, commonly called wormwood. Yeah, that wormwood. This is a cutting of a larger plant that we have out in the garden, and since it's in a pot, it's easier to film this in the lab. So, what is wormwood? Well, it's a lot of things. First and foremost, it's in the family Asteraceae. The specific epithet, absinthium, actually just means wormwood. So, that whole Latin thing went in a circle, and we've already covered what Artemisia means in the mugwort video. But most sources, just as a quick recap, say that Artemisia is named for Artemis. However, there was a Artemisia of Caria, who the plant may have also been named after. So it's kind of up in the air. Consequently, Artemis is the Greek deity, but the Roman version of that deity is Diana. So there you go. Anyway, this plant is native to temperate Eurasia and North Africa, but it is naturalized in Canada and the United States. It is a herbaceous perennial in zones 4 through 9. Its soil pH preference is 4.8 to 8.2, which means it basically takes whatever the hell you throw at it, which is damned impressive. Consequently, its native cousin is Artemisia tridentata, which is one of the sacred herbs that's considered, quote-unquote, sacred sage. There are 3 of them: black sage, white sage, and that one. I would love to get a specimen of that one. We're working on it. I mean, we got white sage this year. That was a miracle. Anyway, I should point out that because of its pH range, it can grow in absolutely crap soils, and it'll be like, I'm a wormwood. What you gonna do about it? That's a plant after my own heart right there. And consequently, it will chokeslam other things in poor soils, which is amazing. This plant is the result of me cutting back a much larger one that was, in fact, chokeslamming a section of the garden. And it's recovering, and this is recovering, and everybody's happy. Now, its exposure is full sun to partial shade, and yes, that includes southern laser sun in zone 8A. You can put this thing in full hot sun. If it's a new planting, you're going to have to nurse it for the first week or 2, maybe 3 weeks. With regular water, but after that, as long as you occasionally water, you make sure the soil doesn't go completely dry, like cracks and retracting away and looking like the desert, it'll be fine, and it may just survive in the actual desert. However, it takes full sun, as I mentioned, to partial shade, so it's variable on that too. It won't grow, well, all references say it won't grow in deep shade, but then again, considering how survivable this plant is, maybe. Its height can be up to 3 feet, and its width can be up to 6 feet. It has a mounding form, so it kind of sprawls across the ground, lumpily, which is pretty nice. Now, this particular variety, I should mention, is Powis Castle, the one you'll commonly find at the nurseries. Though there is another one that's like Silver King or Silver Castle or Silver something, and it's got even finer foliage. However, this variety is closer to the original absinthe-making variety, which is why I have it, because it has most, if not all, of the medicinal qualities. But we'll get into that neat stuff in just a moment, because this plant has a bunch of nicknames. Grand wormwood, it sure is. Absinthe, keeping it close to the liquor cabinet. Absinthe-wormwood, keeping it closer to the liquor cabinet. Wormout, I wonder what that means. Mugwort, yeah, see what happens when you deal with common names? That's why botanical Latin is very important, folks, because there's another plant called mugwort, and it's its cousin. Wormwood, wormit, wormod. Wormit just sounds like over-the-counter brand to get rid of worms. Wormit! Wormod, that sounds really weirdly like a video game. But anyway, all of these names are not coincidental. All the wormit and so forth names. And Firstly, let me start out by saying, on the jokes about keeping it close to the liquor cabinet, wormwood is a key ingredient in absinthe, the infamous beverage that was said to be a hallucinogen and was referred to as the green fairy. Now, absinthe is actually a mixture of several herbs. It's not just absinthe, though you can make faux absinthe with Everclear or vodka and this lovely plant here, the foliage specifically. It's rough. I've made it. It's pretty rough. Technically, absinthe is a spirit, so it's basically straight liquor, and then you would dilute it with water and a sugar cube to flavor it. That's why you have to do it. Drinking it straight will just wreck your stuff. I looked at the content, and I said, yeah, no, I'm following the directions, get me that slotted spoon. I've had absinthe, it's intriguing. But anyway, the whole issue with the Green Fairy, which is a history lesson unto itself. In fact, I'm pretty sure the history guy, a great channel by the way, has covered that, so you might want to look him up. But anyway, keeping it on track. What it is that basically the plant has a compound called thujone, which is also found in other plants, including white sage, which in moderation is fine, but in large quantities can kind of cause biological troubles. Well, there's that, and the fact that the French liquor-making establishment in the time of the Green Fairy didn't exactly have production controls on alcohol content. So, basically people may have been drinking what prohibitionists would have called coffin varnish. Or liquor that is so bad that it's basically guaranteed to make you go blind or ruin your liver and kidneys real quick or put you in a coffin. So there's that. That's why the Green Fairy got its reputation. In fact, there was an entire incident where the brewing vats for absinthe leaked or burst and flowed into one of the rivers in France, and the river caught fire. That's how much content was in that stuff. It wasn't actually wormwood's fault. Wormwood is just a plant. We use it as we see fit, and we screwed up. Now, I will point out also that absinthe is the most famous liquor or spirit that this is in. However, it is also used in bitters such as Basque, vermouth. I didn't know that it was in vermouth. I'm actually kind of impressed. And I'm going to mangle this, but Pelinkovac. So, it's in other stuff too. In fact, it may or may not be an ingredient in Benedictine. Not entirely sure. There's sites that say yay, and there's sites that say no, and then according to bartenders' manuals, I have a couple copies of those, because that's important too. Some say it is, and some say it ain't. Now, used as a medicine, again, before you use any herbal substance as a medicine, consult a medical practitioner and a certified herbalist. Do not trust salesmen at like GNC or the herb shop or blah blah blah. They're there to sell you stuff. It may or may not work for you. You may be allergic, you may have a reaction. Be careful when you use herbal substances to treat medical conditions. Now, again, used as a medicine, it is known to be used for dyspepsia and may treat poor appetite and Crohn's disease. Now, that's kind of interesting. Additionally, in the farm, wormwood clippings in chicken nesting boxes will help repel lice, mites, and fleas. Okay. Additionally, wormwood repels intestinal worms and may kill the malaria parasite. Henceforth, the name wormwood, which is why it's also called wormod, wormit, wormud, wormout, and all of that. Because it repels parasites, worms in the intestine. And that's what its long history is really about. Not so much the liquor. But people demonize the plant and blame the wrong thing. Dull surprise. This has been going on for a while. But anyway, as a garden perennial, it's got nice lacy foliage in this silvery green color, and it is aromatic. The leaves are aromatic. I've seen recipes for cooking with it because it is safe in reasonable quantities. I assume you would use it kind of like rue in moderated quantities. It is competitive. An individual plant can actually take over a section of the garden. Its stems may root where they touch, which is how this actually happened. There's a section that just happened to have rooted where it touched, and now it's in a pot and it's living its best life. In addition to that, its flowers do attract certain pollinators because it is an aster. So there's that. As far as I know, it doesn't really have any pests. The slugs don't seem to bother it. I've never seen anything graze on it. Animals don't touch it. Squirrels don't seem to want to dig around it. So there's that, folks. So that's about everything I've got for you on wormwood. Now, if you have any thoughts about wormwood, any ways you use it, any ways you have it in your garden, or if you've even tried to make faux absinthe, please leave those comments in the comments section. If you like this episode, hit like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're shooting for 500. And as always, folks, keep them growing. Thanks for watching. Oh, and in the description for this video at the end, you will find a link to our forage blog, where you can see where we talk about weeds you can eat in the field. So, again, thank you for watching. Keep them growing.